They are the men and women who put the sport on the map, and we're going to get to see them compete in pairs here as the Legends competition kicks off. Thanks for being with us today, everybody. Sean Woodland with Adrian Conway. Kiki Dixon is down on the competition floor. And some of the biggest names that competed in the past in the sport are out there on the field.
Yeah, these are really the names and the faces that helped build our sport, Sean. This is one of the most special things about the Rogue Invitational each and every year is to watch the legends take the field and do what they do, put on a show.
Event number 1 is brought to you by Beyond the Whiteboard. 50 calories on the Ski Erg. Then bar muscle ups, got some Syncro double unders, and we wind up finishing with the box jump overs, and they can divide this up however they want.
Yeah, and this workout is, there's some elements to this workout in itself that are going to present a little bit of a challenge when you haven't really been working out together. But all in all, it's high speed and low drag. With everything that we've got going on here, they can break up the work however they want. So it's important for them to understand that when they're moving, it needs to be full speed before they tap their next person out. And then, of course, you got to have a rhythm. Man, these front squats with these double kettlebells are going to be done synchro, which means you can't guess when your teammate's ready. You've got to know, and that's a vibe that hopefully these athletes have gotten a chance to create, at least through all the warm-up reps they got to do in the back.
Matt Chan and Jason Kalipa will be paired up. Kalipa, the 2008 CrossFit Games champion. Matt Chan finished second in 2012. Tommy Hackenbruck, someone you're very familiar with, paired up with Dan Bailey.
It's two good dudes right there. Two good dudes. And yes, I am very familiar with Tommy. A friend, a mentor, a coach, although he'd probably never call himself my coach, but he definitely served in that role for some time.
Tommy Hackenbruck, a former linebacker at Utah. Had 3 sacks in the 2005 Fiesta Bowl where Utah beat Pitt 35-7. Also a running back in high school. And there is Dan Bailey, who, as you may have heard floor announcer Josh Gallegos announce, newly married to Alex LaChance, and just one of the most genuinely nice people you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, he's got pretty nice arms. A little envious of those.
And Kerry Pierce gets to get paired up with Rich Froning. And talking to some of the legends, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them said, I just don't want to get paired with Rich because he's really going to make me go harder than I want to go here. So good luck to Kerry Pierce.
Yeah, and I love it because their mentality is so similar. I talked to Kerry yesterday, and I was like, hey, are you excited for these events? And she's like, oh, just one a day? Yeah, I guess so. She's extremely excited to be here and didn't mean to downplay it, but it's the tenacity and the work that she was anticipating doing, and she's like, oh man, we only get to taste one a day. So it's suiting for her to be partnered with the GOAT.
And Tanya Wagner, the 2009 CrossFit Games champion. She's on the right side. She'll be paired with Stacy Tovar.
You know, there's something specific I remember about Stacy as a competitive athlete. There was a regionals with a lot of strict handstand push-ups, and she was one of the first athletes that I watched do singles.
I remember that.
It showed me the self-awareness and also the confidence to be outside of the box of what other athletes thought they needed to do to have success that she exemplified there.
Well, last year, Stacy Tovar competed in the Legends here at the Rogue Invitational while pregnant.
Amazing. What a great example to the moms out there. Stick with what you know, even if it's just some CrossFit. You can do it out on a field with some friends, that's okay.
Just introduced Annie Sakamoto, who will be paired up with Chris Clever. I believe Annie Sakamoto, the only athlete out there on the field that has a workout named after her.
Definitely the only one.
Double unders in the sit-up workout named Annie is after Annie Sakamoto. And she'll be paired with Chris Clever, former CrossFit Games champion. Rebecca Voigt-Miller. And when you talk about fitness through different modes and time domains, you also want to throw in age, and she has been unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
As she has advanced through her career. As a master, still out there sometimes throwing down with the individuals in the semifinals.
Yeah, she's accumulated 110 CrossFit events completed. I mean, that's wild for me to consider. Margot Alvarez, someone that I got to compete alongside several times as well. She won that long, long row, if we can remember that a few years back. She's always been someone that I was like, hey, she could make an absolute killer as a female position on a team. I could never quite coax her into it.
Definitely one of the most mentally tough athletes out there. The first of what should be many fireworks here at Dell Diamond. And we are set. Lane assignments for the Legends. We did not get to see Josh Bridges and Mikko Salo. They'll be on the far side of the field, and Chris Spieler and Josh Everett also out there as well. Jason Kalipa trying to coax some people into a false start.
Always. And it's funny because it was all fun and games until the beep just went off, Sean.
Rich Froning and Dan Bailey were bumping a little bit on the way down to the Ski Erg. 161 total reps to complete, 50 on the Ski Erg.
You'll notice something unique even with what Rich is doing now with his Ski Erg technique. He's got a pretty high frequency, but he's got a staggered stance. It's something that a lot of athletes experiment with and tend to prefer with the Ski Erg. It almost allows you to create more leverage as you pull down with each stroke. Tommy's getting into it a little bit there as well. The feet matter, folks. We can learn things from these legends.
Annie Sakamoto on the Ski Erg along with Chris Clever. Clever now going to take her turn. 50 calories you have to complete. Just divide it up however you want. I don't think Rich Froning has stopped. Tommy Hackenbruck and Dan Bailey are your leaders right now. Dan Bailey on the Ski Erg for his pair. Here's Carrie Pierce. How'd you like to be in a fun workout and just have Rich Froning staring over your shoulder?
I've been there. Listen, I've worked a couple level 1 gigs down in Cookeville and gotten to partner up with Rich on a few workouts, and I'll just say he has a very creative way to put you in your place. Hey, you want to do a team workout with me? Sure, let's do it. And then all of a sudden that 1-to-1 work-to-rest ratio goes away, and you don't feel quite as good as Rich looks over there, so you're wondering, man, is he that much more fit? And the answer is yes, he is.
Dan Bailey and Hackenbruck are onto the bar muscle ups. Matt Chan and Jason Kalipa are there as well.
And this is where these guys get to have a ton of fun, man. This is, and not to mention they're out here throwing down together on a field, but also that new apparatus that they get to play with. It's like these are kids in the candy store.
I think Dan Bailey may have tested this a little bit, so he has a little bit of an advantage here. As he and Tommy Hackenbruck continue to lead, there is Josh Bridges paired up with Mikko Salo, the 2009 CrossFit Games champion.
You know, and there's something to be said about Mikko. We probably don't talk about him as much as we potentially should with the history of our sport in regards to him really revolutionizing, at least from my perspective, the way we trained and prepared for this sport. He was one of the first athletes to start to put in the hours on the erg. And then it led to Rich following in his footsteps and putting in the more time and the skill work. And I really believe watching him win the games in 2009 when Tommy took second to him back then, that was a real eye-opener on where the sport was headed.
Jason Kalipa and Matt Chan continuing to work together here. They sit in second place in this opening event for the Legends. Tommy Hackenbruck and Dan Bailey continue to lead, though. Josh Bridges and Mikko Salo are in third, followed by Kerry Pierce and Rich Froning.
Sean, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to call a man a beefcake, but between Jason Kalipa and Matt Chan, those are two prime beefcakes right there, in my opinion. Carrying around a lot of lean body tissue and moving it really well.
Two fit masters as Hackenbruck and Bailey are now on to the Syncro kettlebell front squats.
All right, and this is where a little bit of their limitation. Yeah, see, look, Tommy's pushing that threshold. He's like, here we go, Dan. We got this. Make the judge give us a no rep before we slow down. And that's how you attack that synchro work. Some of these guys with a little less exposure to team competition might not attack it quite as aggressively.
And I imagine it's all fun and games, and then the buzzer goes, and then you get out here, and then the competitive juices start to kick in a little bit. As Matt Chan and Jason Kalipa are the next two men to the Syncro front squats. Kerry Pierce and Rich Froning continue to work their way through their bar muscle-ups. There's Tanya Wagner on the left in the red Philadelphia Phillies shirt. Definitely be cheering for her team in the World Series. Hackenbruck and Bailey are onto the box jump overs.
Here come Everett and Spieler.
Pearson Froning are there as well.
Josh Everett, one of those athletes that put that split snatch on the map.
And has one of my favorite highlights from games past. Go back to the deadlift ladder, the first time they did it at the ranch in 2009, and he had the big lift and the celebration, just threw the weight down and walked right off. It's a great highlight if you've never seen it.
I'll tell you, I've worked a few level ones with Josh as well, and Josh is a quiet assassin. Extremely knowledgeable, and when it's time to teach, he's going to teach you all you need to learn. But I'll tell you what, we get him up here with us in a room, we're going to have to really prod him to get some good information out, because he likes to do it quietly, which you can't do anything but respect.
Manny Sakamoto and Chris Clever. Stacy Tover on the right side of your screen. Continues to work. A little help being given here, and I think in the Legends that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, hey, listen, Annie's smart. She said if it's not in the rule book, you can't dare no rep before it. She does her research.
Josh Bridges and Mikko Salo on their box jump over. Josh Bridges, one of the two men who programmed this competition for the individuals. Both he and Chris Spieler. Is Dan Bailey and Tommy Hackenbruck will win the event.
Yeah, boys.
We were talking about this earlier, but one of my first memories of watching Tommy Hackenbruck compete was in 2012, the final event of the team competition, where it was set. Every member of the team had to go out and do a bench workout, and his was Karen, and he did the thing almost unbroken. Took one break, I think, just to move over to the next target.
Yeah, that's right. There were three targets there. He went unbroken through the first two, and then I think he took a brief break before that last one, man. Yeah, Tommy has done some legendary things, and I'll tell you what, a lot of them just take place in the gym day to day.
Kerry Pierce and Rich Froning are in. Salo and Bridges, as well as Matt Chan and Jason Kalipa, came across the finish line.
You gotta love it. Think about the conversations that are happening. So why'd you end up going so much faster than you told me you were going to go?
Spieler and Everett on the box jumps. And I remember a regional competition where Chris Spieler was doing box jump overs and actually had a clock. Ben Bergeron, his coach at the time, was in the crowd with a clock on a Tabata telling him when to rest and when to go, and it was a great strategy for Chris Spieler.
It was a great strategy. I vividly remember that year and watching him do that and be like, wait a second, is he literally stopping? Yeah, he was. It was like watching him work out on a metronome.
Also had that great moment in 2011 on the dog sled at the CrossFit Games. He and Josh Everett are across.
know, Chris would never enjoy being known for the smallest or one of the smaller athletes to compete in this sport the way that he did, just because that's the type of guy that he is. But you can't help but ignore that this guy walked around most of his competitive years at 140 to 145 and competed against guys that were 190 to 200 pounds. And the feats that he was capable of and showed us on the competition floor in the field were literally astonishing.
Jason Tovar and Tanya Wagner on their box jump overs as Chris Clever and Annie Sakamoto are onto the Syncro front squats. And Annie going to scale this one a little bit. She's been dealing with a little bit of a knee injury that kept her out of the games this year.
But what a great example to the community. Look, folks, we're still getting a squatting pattern from that lunge. She got the kettlebells in the front rack position. She's still synchro with her partner. Awesome example of how to scale a workout and stay in the fight and get some great results while you're at it.
Quote Pat Sherwood, fitness is being achieved. Just about everybody is done. Clever and Sakamoto are the only two left on the field.
And in true CrossFit fashion, the crowd gets even louder for those still left on the field, just like we would in a class. Making sure everybody stays fired up and stays focused on the work at hand. Nobody cleans up their equipment in a good affiliate until everybody finishes that workout, because we're in it together.
Out of the box jump overs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is tough, right? When you're at a threshold, you got to start to jump over this box after you just completed some front squats and or lunges. Those legs are a little wobbly. I don't know what that conversation was there, but it was almost like, hey, Annie, we're the only ones left out here. Laugh, and then just continues to jump.
Josh Bridges.
You a big fan of partner working with Sean?
Oh yeah, it gives me more of an excuse to rest.
I love it. There's a lot of fruits in training with some rest intervals involved. So partner training, although some people are like, I'd rather do it by myself. I want to compete. I want to win. Man, there's a lot of great benefits physically, not just mentally and emotionally, that can come from training in a team.
And I do like the pressure of not letting your partner down. It does tend to push you a little bit more. But, yeah.
There's no doubt about that, man. That's what drew me to the team side. I love competing as an individual. What a great opportunity to showcase your own capacity. But boy, I think I was much greater ability to get more out of myself anytime I compete on a team.
Sakamoto and Clever are across. They will share a hug, and that will do it for the first event for the Legends. Always a blast to watch these athletes throw down. Let's go down to Kiki Dixon with Tommy Hackenbruck and Dan Bailey.
So much fun watching you guys compete. Dan, when you're at the height of your fitness and competitive, athleticism, as we'll say, could you imagine this season of life for yourself?
No, I'm super glad it's here. It's super special that once we were done with that season of life, we didn't really have to stop. We've got, Legends competition to come back to and see all these great people and get to throw down with them, so it's an awesome weekend.
Speaking of one of these great people, Tommy, did Dan pull his weight? Who was doing what out there?
Dan definitely carried me. If anyone who was here last year, I partnered with Stacy Tovar. She's about 6 months pregnant and did 90% of the work because I was so out of shape. So this year I trained a little harder. I'm in slightly better shape, but Dan totally carried me.
Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dan Bailey carries a lot of things with those beef pillows he's got hanging out of those sleeves.
Exactly.
Fun way to wrap up the first part of CrossFit competition here on Friday at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. Plenty of action still to come. The Rogue Iron Game coming up next.